Welcome. Glad you're able to join us for our third episode of Uncommon Ground. I am Sam McGregor, pastor of Allison Creek Presbyterian Church in York County, South Carolina, and I am glad to be one of the participants in our conversation today. Mike, you want to introduce yourself?
And I'm Mike Wright. I am a non-believer, non-faith person that this is also a participant that's excited to be a part of this.
Well, good. So the last couple of weeks, the last couple of episodes, we have been looking at the story of Moses and the story of Exodus, and we looked at the biblical content there, and then part of the Uncommon Ground podcast is that we also want to look at cultural interpretations of spirituality, biblical stories, or whatever. And so Mike was at, Walmart?
Yeah, I was at Walmart.
You were at Walmart, yeah. Shameless plug for Walmart.
I'm sure you can get it anywhere where DVDs are sold.
Well, and so Mike picked up a copy of Exodus, Gods and Kings, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the front of it. It was produced in 2014, and unfortunately, I could not get it to work in my DVD player, so I had to purchase it, rent it, download it through YouTube for $3.99. So we're going to talk about it, and particularly in light of our previous two conversations. So fortunately, Janine is not with us today, so hopefully we can still pull this off without...
I'm sure we can.
You think so? You think you can work without your wife?
I can work without my wife. Okay. I mean, she doesn't have to back me down.
Okay. Okay. All right. So
I mean, I guess to start off with, since we were talking about Exodus and we were talking about trying to do like pulp culture and that has stuff to do with religion and Bible and, you know, the characters of everything. And we just happened to come across this. And since we were talking about Exodus, it was like perfect. Mm-hmm. And, so we decided to get it and watch it. And I guess to start off with, like you had mentioned when we talked about doing pulp culture and movies and stuff, you said that you did not like movies and shows that did religious themes or concepts or however you want to call it. And I thought that was hilarious. But watching it and actually I looked at it two different ways. I looked at it like how well it went with the Bible and how just it was just in general of a movie and a story. And I can admit that if you want to go with it from the Bible, it does not follow the Bible at all. Or so loosely.
It's loosely. Oh, let me just say, I will surprise you and say I really enjoyed the movie.
Really?
I did. And I was surprised that I really enjoyed the movie because, like I said, because when I said I am hesitant about pop culture interpretation, really it's more about kind of that genre of spirituality and just being very kind of nebulous spirituality without really any content. And then my experience with biblical movies is they try so hard to stay a literal interpretation of the biblical story that it comes off so many times as hokey in my experience. But I really like their interpretation. So I would disagree to say that there was nothing like in the Bible, because I felt like I found myself, I would watch it and go, okay, I'm not sure that was in there. And so, I found myself kind of stopping and going, did I miss that in the story, or was that, inaccurate or whatever? So yes, they took some liberties with the story, obviously. this is going to sound terrible to say, but they made the story more exciting than the biblical story is, in my opinion, and tie some things together in the movie that maybe the biblical story doesn't tie together, but also there's some different emphases in the biblical story than what was in the movie. And by an example, I think about in the end of the movie. I guess we have to kind of give some things away. So if you don't want us to spoil the movie and you want to get out and watch it, you may need to stop watching or listening right now. But the relationship that Moses has with the woman who becomes his wife, and then it's a love story, which I'm not sure biblically it's a love story as much as it's property but
yeah,
I mean it's about the time but they do get Moses and his wife are reacquainted according to the biblical text, and in the movie they are reacquainted, and the focus in the movie is on their reacquaintance as husband and wife and their love and all of that, whereas in the biblical story the focus is on Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, the father of the woman who is the wife in the story, and I really appreciated that part of the movie because it brought out that the feminine part of the story that is missing in the biblical interpretation of the story, because it's all about Jethro and Moses, and nothing about Jethro's daughter and Moses.
So do you think the Bible leads more masculine?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Interesting. But so on the counterpoint, I thought the movie was good, but I thought it was slow and a little boring. Because I felt like there were so many spots that they started giving information and then they just stopped it. And then they just jumped to another scene. And I'm like, wait, where's the rest of information? And then it just kind of killed it for me.
Right.
Because I felt like one of the parts kind of early on is when the Pharaoh's son,
Ramses, which is not biblical that the name Ramses comes out, but that is historically accurate based on archaeology. Right. That the Pharaoh during the Exodus was Ramses.
So when he actually takes power after his father dies, the part where Moses, after he killed the two Egyptians, and also they find out that he's a Hebrew and not an Egyptian, that he gets banished. But it's only because he doesn't want to have his sister that he doesn't know is a sister hand chopped off.
Right.
But it seems like there was so much missing right there as far as information.
Right.
I was like, was he kicked out because he was a Hebrew or claimed to be a Hebrew?
Right.
Or was it just because he didn't want to see this woman's hand cut off?
Right.
And he had passion for her.
Right.
I felt like there was too much missing.
Right.
Because it just jumped. And it did that quite a few times, I felt.
Well, because it would be a very hard story to turn into a movie because there is such content in there.
Right.
And yeah, I actually did find myself, I actually watched it over 2 days. So maybe the slowness, if I had sat and watched it all at one time, would have picked up more on that. But I did find myself going, okay, what's that relationship? Let me kind of read the biblical story and try to kind of grasp it. But it was intriguing how they presented Ramses as this so there's a scene where Moses saves Ramses on the battlefield,
right?
And and so Moses is portrayed as this, great soldier, whereas Ramses is that second generation who's not as good as the father, and which is not, that is not a biblical content part of the story, but it was, I thought, an intriguing way of presenting Ramses, which in a story makes sense to me to portray him that way.
But I think he always knew that he was the weaker of the two, especially when the soothsayer, I don't know what she was really called, they didn't really say, but when she predicted that was going to happen,
right?
And then the way they looked at each other, they knew who was stronger,
right?
So it's again, I feel it's like one of those things that being a pharaoh, and that your son
Pharaoh oh, let my people go, huh? Yeah. Okay, sorry. It's yeah. Oh, sorry. Whenever I get to that, it's either that or, well, like an Egyptian. So anyway, I'm sorry. I am totally going the wrong direction.
Just going off there. It's okay.
Totally went off there. So I'm sorry. So I have to bring myself back, Mike, because initially, whenever I hear the word Pharaoh, I want to start dancing and doing Pharaoh. Oh, so I did it wrong. You spelled, because people watching going, that's not right, Sam. So it's Pharaoh. Oh, baby, let my people go. Huh? Yeah. Okay, now.
So real quick,
did I totally kill your thoughts? Train of thought?
No, you didn't. But I got some more though. So if that's a trigger word, should we just call him John?
No, you gotta go with Pharaoh, which I never can spell properly. My spell check always nails me on Pharaoh.
Yeah, there's a few other words like that I have problems with. But so if the Pharaoh knew that Moses was stronger than Ramses, just in general, just a stronger person, more dedicated to his people, that at the time he's thinking are the Egyptians, because I think that's also an area that kind of confused me after going back to the scripture and everything, is that it kind of seemed like Moses knew he was Hebrew way before how they kind of let it into the movie.
You're saying in the biblical story he knew he was Hebrew? Yeah, I would agree with that.
Because it seemed that he was still a general up to the point of when he gets kicked out.
Mm-hmm.
And even still when he gets kicked out, he's still hesitant that he's a Hebrew.
Right. Because the way the movie presents it, he's antagonistic with the Hebrews.
Right.
Until he realizes that he's one of them. Which is an interesting storyline. And you can see where that would be an interesting subplot to it, of you're called to save these people that you don't, you've been taught to despise.
Yeah. But I feel like he had passion for people in general, because like in the scene where the Aaron Paul character, I can't remember who that was.
So actor names and I don't.
He was the one being whipped.
Okay.
That was Strong saying that he was smiling because he felt no pain, and he was like, why you keep whipping him?
Right.
I felt like he still had passion for these people, just as a compassionate person.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if he had such high regard from the Pharaoh, why didn't the Pharaoh take advice from him, or learn, or try to figure out what he knows of the people, since he goes out to try and fix his his community, I guess is the best way to say it, or his kingdom, because it seems like there was lots of just frustration and fighting amongst everyone, and normally you'd want to figure out how to stop that. And it's it looked like he knew what was going on, so you'd think that the Pharaoh would be like, what's going on? But it didn't seem like that at all. Just it kind of just started with all the stuff of however many years it was. I'm trying to remember all the stuff. It really condenses everything.
Well, yeah, you have to condense it to make it fit.
But it's hard to figure out where the timeline is, because sometimes in movies you'll say 100 years later,
right.
50 years later, whatever. So I'm trying to go back to all the different things since it skipped around.
So one thing I did want to say when you mentioned about the violence is, so my wife didn't know what I was watching, and so she walks by and she's like, "Man, what violent movie are you watching?" And I was like, "It's the Old Testament. It's kind of violent in the Old Testament."
It is.
Yeah,
it most definitely is. But there was something else I was getting. I had a thought.
So I'm good at killing your train of thought, Mike. You know.
I'll get in a second.
Okay. So what I really liked, and this may shock you, is I really liked the burning bush scene.
Shown as a child.
Shown as a child. Because, you know, when older movies present that scene, or when children's movies, or, you know, try to present that scene, they present this very strong, powerful male voice who says, Moses, you know, I am who I am Yahweh, and they don't ever say Yahweh, I am God. And so you have this very much, I hear this voice, and it's this big, strong, powerful, masculine voice, and so it must be God. Whereas the way the movie portrays it is it's the voice of a child, which to me is a much more natural way of hearing that voice and dialogue with that voice, because you're sitting there going, who is this voice from? Is this just a child? Am I making this up? Am I really hearing this?
Right.
And the other thing that I really liked about the movie was, you know, which I think is biblically accurate, is Moses isn't defending. You know, God doesn't come off in this movie as I don't want to say the word perfect, but you know, God comes across as confusing, and that kind of relationship, of this confusing relationship with God, comes through in the movie, which I think comes through in the biblical text of that confusing relationship between Moses and God, and I think the movie could have gone into some of that dialogue with Moses and God, where you know, Moses has that where God, according to the text, changes God's mind, and but you know, the movie didn't want to go there. But
yeah, I will say this: I think it was I didn't mind the child as much, because just looking at a burning bush for 15 minutes of the movie would have been a little kind of whatever. But I thought it was also, there were two things. I'll do one step up, as that I did like that it was a child in the fact of, it almost seemed like it was learning. It was trying to learn like different ways to go about things, because when Moses was arguing, it was a conversation amongst the two of them to try and figure out where to go next.
Right.
The thing I thought was a little crazy about it being a child is that it was almost a little disturbing that you have this powerful being in a child that is now ready to destroy all these people. And when it comes off, like, just wait, watch what I can do. Mm-hmm. And you see it coming from a child, it can be a little disturbing. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, but I did like that it was a child, that it did actually have some sort of conversation back and forth and growth, I felt. Mm-hmm. So I'll definitely add on that.
Yeah. So the other, so the picture on the front cover has Moses standing in front of this huge wave. And so as soon as I saw that picture, I was like, oh gosh, we're going to have this scene where these walls of water, or huge walls of water on both sides, and they just walk right through the middle of these two big walls of water. So that's what I expected based on that picture, right, which is the way that in those cartoon or children's movies that I've seen depicting the story, that's how it's seen, and in this very clear, miraculous way. But I'm really bragging on this movie here. You're probably kind of shocked here, aren't you?
I am.
So
you got a grin. You're
I know. I'm like really into this thing, and so call me hypocrisy or whatever. I don't know, but Heretic, that was the word I'm looking for. So, but I really like the way that the plagues were presented. I mean, the plagues were presented in a way that makes sense to me naturally.
Right.
You know, with the blood turning red because of the gators, and then, you know, how the frogs come about and the locusts, but particularly the water scene and crossing over the sea, and the way that they did that with I mean, I was trying to think this morning. It's a natural thing where it's not a tsunami, but where water can be sucked back and then pushed out. I've seen examples of that in nature where bodies of water became very shallow because it got sucked back somehow, and then
I think that was the purpose of like the tornado or funnel or
right.
Or
so the
like
way
that.
it was presented, I was thinking, yeah, I could see that where, with the scene where the birds, they initially see the birds because the water starts getting shallow, and that would make sense because the fish are going to be exposed, and so the birds are going to show up, and then the way the water gets sucked back and the tornadoes and such, and then how it's released, I was thinking to myself, that makes perfect natural sense for me for how this plague could have carried itself out.
Mm-hmm.
So
how do you feel about it showing the plagues as far as just God just doing them instead of like the battle between like Moses and
Pharaoh?
Yeah.
That was an intriguing interpretation of the story because Moses never, in between the plagues, Moses never goes back to Pharaoh.
Right. He just
says,
like sits back
let
and
my
watch.
people go. Let my people go. And did he not ever? I don't ever think I remember in the movie where he says, "Let my people go." I would have. He should have. They should have highlighted that line. That's a classic line, but it was never used in the movie. So, but if Moses had gone in the storyline of the movie, it would have been difficult to imagine Pharaoh saying, "Okay, you can go now. You can go now. You can go now." And with the fact that Moses doesn't show up until before the last plague.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think as someone who enjoys movies and like all kinds and like tears down a lot of them, like there are ways I felt like it could have been filmed to actually portray that. Okay. And it could have been very minimalistic, but still effective. Like I feel like there could have been a plague, and then all of a sudden the next scene is you see Moses walking away from the Pharaoh, and the Pharaoh just yelling at him to leave, kind of thing. And then the next plague happens, and it's the same thing, just showing that he's trying, and that the next plague is just in the next journey of what's going on between, the two of them. I will say this: I'm still kind of like, with some of the plagues, I feel like there's such just natural occurrences that it's hard to just put like that someone just is like, I'm gonna snap my finger and now we got a plague kind of thing.
Well, see, I guess the way I read it, Mike, is not that God's snapping fingers and making it happen, but that in a natural sequence of events, God knows what's going to happen, and that God prepares people to deal with what's going to be happening. And so whether it's a hurricane or whether it's a tornado or whatever, that God knows those things are about to happen, and that God is preparing people in how to deal with what's getting ready to happen. I mean, it's almost like at the Adam and Eve story of the Adam and Eve getting clothes to live in the natural world. It's not punishment that they're clothed, it's protection. And so I see this as God's seeing the big picture, and that in the process of the big picture, God is providing the tools necessary so that we survive and thrive in the big picture.
So how do you think that translates to today? Because there's still like I know not that long ago there was another like locust invasion in like Vegas, And apparently that happens fairly often.
And that's a problem?
So-
You got a problem with that?
Well, I'm trying to say,
Sorry,
is like,
Vegas.
do you think that that's like a
Never
plague?
been.
I mean,
Sorry, I shouldn't have said that.
Do you think it's that
Good golf,
it's
I
just
hear,
a thing of a plague, that, or it's just a natural thing that just
I think
happens?
It's a natural thing that happens. I think, hurricanes, locusts, those are natural things that happen.
But you don't
Yeah.
think it's God that's just like saying, all right, Sin City's going to get wiped out by locusts today?
No, I do not.
Okay. Okay. That's all the question I had on
Okay. Okay.
that. Let's see. What else in the movie? Oh, this is more of just kind of like a thought that I had when I watched it. It really doesn't have anything to do with, again, like the story with Moses. But do you think it was right that the horses in the thing were getting killed as much as they were when they don't really know what side they're on? Do you think that's fair to the horses?
It is
Or do you
not
think-
fair.
or do you think
it is
they
not
know?
fair to the horses?
Or do you know
the
that
animals suffer? The animals suffer because of human sin, and that is a story today.
Do you think it's that, or do you think it's because God created animals for man to eat?
I did feel kind of bad for the poor lambs that get killed for the blood to go over the doorpost. I was like, oh, poor lambs, and they show them, and they're like, oh, poor lambs. Can't we just save some of them? Do we have to kill them all? And I don't know if they killed them all, but because literally I was thinking, okay, you can. One lamb can supply enough blood for several doorposts. You don't have to kill one lamb per doorpost. I don't know if it says you have to deal one, because actually I think the text says to share your lamb blood. So, poor horses, poor lambs, poor cows. Cows cows suffer too. Yeah,
I just feel like they were innocent bystanders.
They
They
were.
didn't know what side they were on.
they were, and then and those poor horses pulling the chariots who never get to rest and fall off the side of the mountain. Poor horses. That sucks.
Oh, I have one.
Okay.
What did you think about when the I guess it was a plague, I don't know, when all the firstborn died? How they portrayed that.
Right. So that's the final plague.
Right.
I mean, I thought they handled it. I don't know if you could say well. I mean, it's a very painful, excruciating event. But
For those who live, because it seemed very tranquil for all the ones who died. It didn't seem like devastating as far as it's not like they just started like convulsing and
right,
bleeding out or anything like that. They just died in their sleep
right,
and they just stopped breathing.
right. They could have portrayed the anguish more
Right.
than they did in the movie.
I mean, do you think that was a good way to portray it, or do you think it wasn't?
Well, I did think that they could have portrayed the anguish more than they did.
Do you think it showed compassion?
Well, it was interesting how Pharaoh's son, he's portrayed as being very compassionate and loving and involved with his infant son.
Right.
And as I was watching that, initially I was thinking, yeah, they're setting that up so that when he dies, you feel some sense of pain for Pharaoh, that it really means something to him. But I mean, could have had more wailing, I guess, around the death of the children.
I just think when they died they just died in their sleep and they just lost their breath. For something that they were trying to show so much devastation, I think it was too compassionate to just like let them. No, I'm serious.
Compassionate.
Because you have God just
Right.
putting all these plagues. These people have skin falling off their face because of like leprosy or whatever that was in that one scene, and it's just like you're doing all this horrible, devastating stuff, and then all of a sudden you just let these people just pass in the night, calmly, no problem. They just stop breathing.
Well, it was a 2.5 hour movie.
I still think they could have.
Okay. So what you can do is when you start it again, you can watch it again. When you get to that point, you can have some, background crying.
I'll edit it.
Edit in.
Yeah.
And so you stop it there and then you play, crying for, hours if you want to feel that pain. So.
I think I'll do that.
Okay.
Just so I feel better about it.
Okay. 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 Yeah. All right.
But again, back at the end with the wall, I did like that. I think as far as I think the movie portrays things very realistic in ways that probably I think people who are not religious would enjoy watching it.
I think so too.
I think that's probably the point of some of it.
Right.
Is that you don't have to be, a Bible reader to enjoy the story or not enjoy the story.
No, no, and I
it.
think what I would encourage people to do is to look at both. Look at the biblical story and look at the movie and compare and contrast. Kind of do a timeline of the biblical story, do a timeline of the movie, and what would you highlight? How would you tell this story?
Right.
So.
No, I think it was good. So overall, what would you rate?
So we're going to
movie?
do Ebert and Siskel and Ebert and do 2 thumbs up.
Well, it's however you want to do it.
So I'm going to give it 2 thumbs up, because I really enjoyed it.
I think it's very interesting.
You're shocked by that.
I am very shocked by that.
Yeah.
I was expecting you just to come in and be like, yeah, this did not follow anything. This was not a good movie. That's what I was expecting you to say, and then I was
So this is why this is working, Mike.
Yeah, I know.
We're learning all about each other.
So I mean, on that, I would only give it 1 thumbs up. I think that the story was cut up too much as far as information goes. I do think it was realistic in the way they portrayed a lot of things, and stuff like that. But cutting up too much of the story, too much of the information, it didn't do it for me.
You're such a biblical literalist, Mike.
It wasn't even about being.
So here I am, the institutional pastor, and I'm going, I don't mind with all the liberties they took, and the unbeliever over here is going, they didn't stick to the text.
It's not that they didn't say. I wanted the information.
I wanted more
text.
Know why
he got kicked
text.
out.
I want it to be authentic to the text.
Why did he get kicked out?
I'm hearing Walter Brueggemann. You got to be authentic to the text.
You know what else I did like, just real quick?
Okay.
And this would be my last thought.
Okay.
I think Janine and I both liked that the Pharaoh gave the swords to each other, like each other's swords to the opposite, to try and say that you're supposed to be there for each other. And then it just wasn't there.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty powerful.
Okay.
I did like that.
Okay. Good.
So, that really didn't have much to do with the Bible or anything. It was just
didn't.
It was just a very good symbolism that I liked.
Okay.
I thought that was pretty cool.
Okay.
Because it kind of showed who took it and who didn't take it.
Okay. Well, good.
All right.
All right. So there you have it. A review of our first movie. And so we'll do some more of those.
Yeah, we'll try to find some other good ones.
Okay. And maybe there'll be some more singing of Pharaoh, Pharaoh. Oh, people, let my people. Oh, baby, let my people go. Huh. Yeah. Okay.
All right. Okay, guys. So we'll check you on the next one.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.